Welcome to Beyond the Build, the podcast where we talk with agency leaders about the work behind the work, how teams evolve, how leaders navigate change, and what it really takes to build something sustainable. I'm Shawn Johnston. My guest today is Sarah Jolly, co-founder and managing partner of Jolly Creative Agency, a WordPress design and development shop based on the California coast that she started 13 years ago with her mom after teaching herself CSS from a book and building her band's website. Today's Jolly serves clients from luxury private clubs to nonprofits to manufacturing companies, and they've built a reputation for landing big projects on time with everyone still friends at the end. Sarah, welcome to Beyond the Build. Before we get into it, introduce yourself.
I'm Sarah Jolly. You did such a great introduction. I don't even know how to add on to that. Thanks for having me here.
All right, so take me back to the beginning. You were playing music in LA, teaching yourself CSS. What was the moment you realized web work was actually going to be a thing?
Yeah, it happened very organically. Like you mentioned, I was in LA after creative pursuits, lead singer of a band, writing music, having a good time, staying out very late at night. And we decided we need a website. And it was at the very beginning, the infancy of WordPress. And so I figured it out. I've always been a figure it out kind of person. And I had so much fun doing that site. And I did have a graphic design background. I had a Photoshop background, had done that for a while before moving to LA. So I did have that in my back pocket, but had such a good time building that website, and it went really successfully. The band, not as successfully, but it was very good time.
What was the name of the band so we can Google it?
Yeah, we were called Mercy West.
Mercy
And
West.
we had a little circuit that we did in the LA area, and it was super fun, very fun. And I worked with really, really talented people who went on to do much more successful things in music than I did, but it was a very good time.
Yeah, I was also born with what I call the how hard can it be gene. So yeah.
What is that? If it weren't for that gene, I wouldn't be here today.
I was like,
sure.
If that person could do it, pretty sure I could figure it out.
100%. The little sprinkle of audacity why not?
Yeah. Yes, I can. So you went to your mom with this idea. What made you think the two of you could build something together? What was that like?
Yeah, so I had gone from my music days into doing freelance for just everything digital creative and graphic design. And I'd rocked that for about a year in LA. And through the stroke of luck or I don't know, it was successful enough that I needed help. And I thought my mom had been in a management position at the job she was at. She had just left. And I thought, let's maybe do something together. We'd always wanted to work together. Our chemistry is fire. We get along really, really well, which you have to if you're going to work with family. And so I said, hey, this is growing a little bit beyond my control. Do you want to try to make something out of it? And that was how it was born. So a little more of that can-do sprinkle. Why not? Sure, why not?
Yeah, we had a weirdly similar start. Because I remember I was telling you about my $1,500 Craigslist hustle. And that started by figuring out WordPress to build my own freelance website, which at the time had only intended to be graphic design. But I was like, well, I could if I can build this from what I design, then I get to keep all the money. I don't have to outsource anything. And similarly, that kind of took on a life of its own. I didn't have a mom that I could work with, but I did have someone hook me up with, his name was Abe. He was employee number one. He had chronic fatigue syndrome, and he was just getting back into the workplace, and he just needed part-time work. And I need somebody to answer everybody's questions. So that's how it started, and it grew from there.
That is really, really interesting. I can really relate to that. I've got, at the time where we started, some health issues as well. And that was also part of the perfect piece that came together where I was like, I need to do my own thing where I can control my own hours.
Yeah.
For that reason. So
That's awesome. Yeah, it's kind of doing your own thing does create those types of freedoms. I always felt the corporate world quite suffocating, and so getting out on my own just allowed me to do things in ways that made sense for me. And yeah, I could never go back.
I couldn't. I don't think they wouldn't want us at this point. They'd be like, too free of a thinker.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Does not follow instructions.
Yeah.
So running an agency with your mom and your brother is also part of the organization is not a common founding structure. What's been the best part of that, and what's been the hardest?
Yeah, so Ren and I have been together obviously since day one. And then our first employee, actually, Yvonne, our developer, is still with us today. So the three of us have been kind of rocking from day one. Grant came into the picture about 5 to almost 6 years ago, right during the pandemic. And that was a really interesting dynamic. Like I said, Ren and I have always been like two puzzle pieces that fit together. But then pulling in, the brother dynamic is totally different. And Grant is actually a year older than I am. So we've always kind of said like we're essentially twins, like we're very close.
Yeah.
But it was very odd to feel like you're managing that. That was an odd dynamic that I had to kind of grow through, and we both had to grow through. And we've since completely come out the better side. But it was pretty awesome bringing Grant in because he's got a really deep background in film. He was working out in LA as well, a producer and a writer. And he
Okay.
was pretty big projects that went to Cannes and Sundance and on HBO. And because that industry shut down, we snagged him. And
Nice.
somehow we've been able to keep him, and he's an amazing creative brain on our team. But yeah, the dynamic, the loyalty is there, and then we've had to just figure out, how sometimes that family dynamic comes in to work, but I think we've been able to obviously successfully navigate it. We're all still here and functioning.
Yeah. I'm still showing up for Thanksgiving and Christmas and stuff. Yeah.
It's funny actually, this Thanksgiving, we all decided to take a break because we see each other all the time. So it wasn't the same.
Okay. Yeah. You want your separate ways?
We
No, that's probably
decided,
smart.
yeah,
Yeah.
we thought, let's have an anti-Thanksgiving Thanksgiving where we just like don't make a big deal about it. And we all loved it so much. We thought, let's do this once every 5 years or something.
That's funny. Yeah. Up here in Canada, we have Thanksgiving in October. So I always call your Thanksgiving second Thanksgiving.
Like second dinner.
That's like second dinner. That's right. So you decided early not to be a full service agency to focus on design and development and partner everything else out. What drove that call?
Yeah, some of it was intentional, some of it was happy accident. Because we were a small team to begin with, we just didn't have the bandwidth to do everything what we considered well. Now,
Uh,
I think also a lot of this stemmed from, learning it yourself, doing it yourself. You and I have chatted before about how we're really self-taught in this. And, I started with reading a book of CSS and figuring it out and that whole mentality. So by the time we got to having slightly larger clients in the beginning, you're kind of making your first leap forward. I had massive imposter syndrome.
uh,
And so that was like obviously difficult, but it also drove me to be better and better and better and better in this kind of impulsive way. And I just couldn't imagine that we could do a good job with everything. It just doesn't make sense. And I see so many agencies do the whole suite. And now that I've been in this long enough and I've seen behind the curtains, and we partner with other agencies, a lot of times they'll book us for the website bit of it because we do that so well. And I get to see behind the curtain. And a lot of times, I'm sure you've seen this too, there's like an intern running all of these like extra suites, like the social, or you have like
yeah.
you know, yeah, like they're not experts in their field running these like extra like service suites. And so it just felt disingenuous to what we knew. And we thought we're just basing our practice on being transparent, being the best that we could possibly be, and doing right by our clients. So we stuck fully to website design and development, which is a huge service suite in itself. There's so many micro elements that
It's
go into doing
complicated.
that.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and doing that
Yeah.
well. And so we didn't want to take on, at the time, it was like the very beginning of social becoming a thing. So at the time, and this is, over 10 years ago, that's what got asked of us a lot. Do you also do social? Do you also post it? That was like a
Yeah.
huge
Yeah.
thing. I mean, it all still is, but we were like, we're not going to do it all. We're going to do what we do really well. We're always going to do well by our clients. And we still have clients from those beginning years. So it was successful. It did work out for us. And it was also, so it was purposeful. It was also a little bit happy accident. If we hadn't just stuck to that, we wouldn't have been able to get so excellent at it. We never.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we've only added on services as it makes sense, as we have the
Does make
capacity to do
sense. Yeah.
so, and as we have experts on our team to handle it.
Yeah. So my freelance career turned into the agency in like 2010, 2011. The first 5 years, it was like growth, scale, we'll do all the things. It was terrible. I built a horrible culture. The company fell apart. So the first 5 years was a big learning curve. And
Yeah.
like I had built up this whole social media reporting side of the business, and I didn't know anything. I knew enough about it to be dangerous, but sort of like leading and nurturing and sort of like evolving that side of the business, yeah, I ended up selling that part of the business to a company that specialized in that sort of thing. And I did
Good for you.
something similar. Is we just got back to basics, and I'm like, this is what we do. It's website and strategy. It's the SEO piece that goes with it. We're not stepping outside for that reason, because if you don't, you need to be able to be the master of this, to be the best at
Yes.
this. And you're right, it's complicated to do it well. So it's everything else can tend to be a bit of a distraction, and it's like you don't always make that much money on it, and it sort of takes your attention away from the stuff that's sort of the core of what you offer.
That's so true. And that's such a good point too, that when you're spreading yourself too thin over the things that you're not a master of, you are typically losing money on that. When you become the expert at it, your value goes up so much higher. That's
That's right.
something I
Yeah.
learned a little bit later on, but I love that you called that a learning curve because 100% learning. And how cool that you could sell your learning curve and
Yeah.
make money off of your learning curve. How awesome is
Well,
that?
I broke even to make sure that my customers were okay. That's what I cared about. But
Oh,
yeah, at the time, yeah, it was just it was like, how do I make sure they're okay? How do I make sure the team that services them okay? And how can I get us refocused? That was. I wish I'd made money on it, but
good leadership. You know what? Free
yes,
education. Not everyone can say that either.
there you go. So you described it as cracking the code on large scale project delivery, like finishing on time, keeping everyone happy, and still being friends. Like, what does that process actually look like?
Yeah. So I think what we developed is a little bit behind the scenes, figuring out what processes work and what don't work. And then also listening to our customers, what's connecting with them and what's not connecting. And so that's the broad strokes. But what that actually means is there's certain processes that we found were really standard. We're starting and again, like go with me because some of those processes are a little bit different today. But back in the day, wireframes were a must. Everyone was doing wireframes. Then we were making the template. And then content was coming in at that point, and then you're building out back pages, blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
And from the very beginning, we thought this isn't landing. We're bringing wireframes to clients and they're like not getting it. They want to see what's real. They're trying to understand. So this is
Yeah.
exactly what it'll look like and it just fell flat on the creative process. And so then we started doing like mocking up elements and kind of like an elevated style of a mood board with
Hmm.
wireframes. It just didn't seem to land. And we're like, well, I don't care if this is the industry standard. We're going to break out of the standard and do what's landing with our clients. So pretty early on, we completely did away with wireframes. And we thought if we're not going to do wireframes, what do we need to do to structure the site? And we thought we need to do content first. And that
Yeah.
is a really big pain point also in these projects is getting content. And I still see, not from our team, but on the internet, it still exists where sometimes you'll go to quite large businesses and their business websites and they have lorem ipsum pages.
Yeah.
Being in the behind the scenes, I know exactly how that happens because getting content from the client or getting approval on content from a client is one of the biggest pain points. So we decided we're going to reverse engineer this. We are going to do like a paper edit of your website. We create the whole outline. If we're doing the copywriting, we'll copyright it. If they're doing the copywriting, now they have a structure to follow. Sometimes it's a combo of those things.
Right.
And also, it's easiest to get that information from the client in the beginning when they're excited and there's all the oompspa behind the project. And it really gets them thinking about the story of what we're doing and why we're doing it and what's making us different. And Grant is such a cool leader in this, especially with his background of writing and storytelling in a different medium. And so we really emphasize the story of each business that we work with. And if you can capture that on a paper edit, then we'll go and make that incredibly creative and fun to interact with and very visually stimulating for your audience. But if you're missing that story from the get-go, then you're never going to make it great visually. And so that's a process that we kind of turned the tables on a little bit,
Huh.
and we won't pass go without content. We won't make these kind of like fake template pages that then people try to put content in after the build. And so that's how our websites come out really complete. They look really intentional in the end. Every single page is filled out by the end. And then we have just a series of delivering the mock-ups that we don't have to get into all those details, but we have kind of a series of delivering that where it minimizes revisions and keeps everyone on track. So essentially, the client load and what they need to do is all in the beginning when they're excited and when
Yeah.
they have energy for this. And by the
Yeah.
end, they're just approving. Looks great, looks great. A
Yeah.
little change to this, a little change to that, a little tweak to that. So their process becomes easy. So by the time we launch, we're at the fun part where they're just going, yes, 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 beautiful.
Yeah.
And when that's reversed and they're having to do the heavy lifting at the end, they're having to come in with their content, they're having to think about
Yeah.
their business for the first time as they're writing it. That's what can break a project.
Yeah.
And it can either never launch or go into a phase two or,
Yeah.
and then disagreements occur. So we found that to be a really, really positive process and workflow.
Yeah, we always gone content first as well. I had the same realization,
Yeah.
is that walking your way through prototyping and design with best case scenario content just results in either a sad balloon at the end when there's just not enough content to fill it, uh, or this Frankenstein monster of like just content in the wrong places. So yeah, I would agree. And we always talk about keeping our clients in the trusting navigator seat. That's what I say. No hands on the wheel. That's our job. We're in this together. We have always historically found, though, that I'm very curious how you overcame this. If you start two content first, they get a little overwhelmed. So the way that we tackled this was using site mapping a bit differently than most people. So it's not just hierarchy. We actually pre-plan the pages, and we connect where all the connecting dots are. So what we end up getting is like this blueprint of the whole project. So we can see what it is, and we map all the existing content to places where it's going to be so that we can do a gap analysis and see where new content has to get created. And so then when we do the prototype and we're actually using their content instead of lorem ipsum, because you're right, lorem ipsum is hard to visualize. So we've taken a step further now, actually using AI to generate really good placeholder content. We call it branded lorem ipsum.
I
So
love
it's not
that.
final content, but you can see your story, your words in it. So we found as well, like not using their imagery. There's just some executives are like, this just doesn't look like us. And you just change the image and they're like, oh my God, this is wonderful. We didn't do anything but change the image.
I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That is very cool. I really like that. And also I think it's helpful when you're having that, by the way, can I use what was it? Deflated balloon? I absolutely love that.
Yes. I call it the sad balloon effect. When you have
Sad
a big
balloon.
design and then
Yeah.
there's not enough content, it just feels like a sad balloon that just didn't get blown up enough. Yeah. I've been using that term for years.
I so love that. I find that to be quite rare. We more have clients that will, in the end, try to stuff it with a ton of content, and it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But that is so great.
We do a lot of work with like professional service groups. And so like you've got these service pages and case study pages and ideally these are telling like good, solid, robust stories about this project. And then what they give you is like 3 images and 2 paragraphs. And then you just end up with this poor, sad little balloon. So, and then they're
Yes.
like, it doesn't look good. And we're like, yes, because you didn't fill out 2/3 of the content. And we always saw that as our fault. Like we just planned too much. We didn't talk about what capacity they had or what interest they had in sort of creating this content. We just talked about the most optimum experience possible, which was too much. They couldn't service it. So,
I think
yeah, you
that's
have
such
to,
a cool thing that you're bringing up too is like you are making solutions for the business. That always is like the most forefront thing in our mind. We are
yeah.
going to do our best to represent you in what's completely missing. However, there is an element to that of what is your capacity to be a part of this project for the client? What's your
Mhm.
capacity and what's your desire? And then you also have to match how willing they are to grow because that is such a thing as well. Sometimes we call it like failure to launch, where the ideas are too different from what they're doing now or they're perceived as too different. And
Yeah.
it's so interesting because it would serve the business best to make that leap. But the person who's attached to the project is just too attached to their own idea of what their brand could be or what this business brand could be. Or we just launched we have like opposite scales right now. We have a client that freaked out. Have you seen the this kind of like a viral moment of the Kind logo? And they did this huge reveal of the Kind logo, and all that changed was like I think the size of the word kind, like the Kind
No, I
bars.
haven't seen that one. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Shawn, I'm gonna send this to you. It is so funny. It's the most like anticlimactic like reveal And we, at the time, were working on a very similar rebrand for a client that just couldn't visualize their brand differently than it was, even though they hired us to rebrand them.
Yeah.
And it was a very similar rebrand. It relaunched with like the kerning on their like
Some
letters
small
a little
modifications.
different.
Yeah.
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 They're like, ta-da. And
But
sometimes
sometimes that's what they want. Like, that's
yes,
our
and so
job.
there's this happy balance of, like, how to serve the business best, but also how to balance that, like what you said, because that can be a total bottleneck if you're
Yeah.
hitting against, like, a client who's just not ready to move at that pace, and then you have to kind of reevaluate.
Yeah, we sort of see ourselves as it's what I always sort of coach the teams. Like we're educators and coaches, but we're not the deciders. So ultimately, the client is the one that has to decide for themselves, and they have to feel good about that decision. So our job is to support them in that process, unless they're going to drive themselves off a cliff. In which case, it's our job to make sure they understand that the cliff is over there and you're
Yeah,
heading towards it. Yeah, and this is what that means. So like
very well said about
yeah,
the educator in it, and that takes, I think, knowing what you do so well. Like, I think you and I are very, like, flames in all this, like a brother
separated
sister.
at birth type of thing. Yes.
Yeah. Completely. Once you, like, have the confidence of knowing what you're doing, it is so important to educate your clients so that they don't drive themselves
Yeah.
off the cliff. We
Well, you
do.
know what happens? Like, because we specialize, like what happens is when like your stuff all the way down. Like one of my special interests is in web accessibility. So it's just something I'm really passionate about. And I know a ton about it. Way too much. I will go on ad nauseum for a really long time until somebody stops me. So like, it's our job to stand up for or advocate for or remind them of what we're doing here. Website has a job. It's on the internet. People have to use it. So when you know your stuff, you can tell clients that's a bad idea. Here's an alternative, or just flat out, no, we're not going to do that because it breaks these rules, and these rules are not to be broken if we want to take this seriously. So when you're a generalist and you're just trying to get the job done, I found that we were just much more inclined to keep things moving along than when we're ready to I had one client that just insisted that color contrast was not important. And so like all of their navigation was not passing contrast checks. And I was like, this is a real problem for us morally. So actually I made them sign a waiver excusing us from like, I wanted them to know that I was dead serious. This is not
Not
just color
serious.
choices. Like I was dead serious about this. Humans need to use this. They can't. These are not usable. Anyways, they didn't sign the waiver and they listened to us. But yeah, but you can't, if you don't know your stuff, it's hard to, you can't do that sort of thing.
I think that's a really brilliant way to lead also, because sometimes you can't just straight tell a client, this is wrong. This isn't the right way. You have to lead them to the water, or
Uh-huh.
I love that you said I offered them a waiver to sign. They ultimately chose not to sign it and went with what I was saying. What another brilliant way to lead, and a way sometimes you have to show up and not just say,
Yeah.
to show up with that and go, "Okay, I'm so dead serious about this. I need your
Yeah.
signature on this." That's great leadership.
I'll send you the waiver too. If you could
That's
use it for
awesome.
the
Yes,
future.
love
That's
that.
right. This was pre AI. I actually had to write this out like a regular person.
Isn't that so funny? My husband was just saying the other day, he goes, "Sarah, I can't believe that you built a business from scratch that has been successful for over a decade, and you did it without the use of AI." And I'm like, "Can you believe that? That should have its our generation should have its own trophy for that."
Yeah, no, I mean, I love it as a tool. Like it completely 10x's my capacity to output. So I love it. But I have this conversation a lot with people. It's like it only works because I know what good looks like because I've done it the hard way for decades. Like I wouldn't know what a good output looks like otherwise. It's saving me time getting there, but I'm not going to give somebody garbage because I don't understand what it generated.
Yes, it's not the idea. It's not the idea man. It's the executive assistant.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So your agency went fully remote in 2020. Like, how did that change the way that you lead the team?
How to change the way I viewed the team?
Led the team.
Led the team. You know what? It was not as big of a challenge as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
It's not like we do interior design where we need to be all looking at samples and holding them in our hand and going to visit sites. Our entire job is already digital, already online. So it allowed us to shore up some of our systems even more, which was very cool. We used to have our systems a little bit like this app for communication and this app for storage and this app for this. So we took about a full 6 months and reevaluated absolutely everything that we had system wise going. And we thought,
Uh,
how can we consolidate everything into one central app for the most part? This can't be perfect. And get our team streamlined and so that we're all communicating super well and you don't have to have 1,000 tabs open on your computer. But for the most part, our team had already been working together for quite a long time. We have a great retention rate. So not too much change, except for I miss seeing faces, of course.
yeah.
But yeah, if anything, it helped us get even sharper with our tools and systems online. And then we keep a channel open for personal. Everyone
Yeah.
throws in their pictures and what they're doing for the weekend or end of day or whatever. And so that's our way to keep it going. But it
Uh-huh.
has been kind of cool because it's allowed us also when we do hire to hire from wherever. And so we can really get like top talent without
Yeah.
having to be like, but do you live next door to me?
Yeah.
So if anything, it's really improved our team. I
Yeah.
kind of, yeah, wish we'd done it sooner.
Yeah, we went remote in 2019. Yeah, I just similar work. Like I remember looking up and seeing like 15 people typing at each other instead of talking, and I'm like, why am I spending 60 grand a year on a lease and an office space where we
Yes.
only actually socialize for like half an hour every day when we break for lunch? So we did lose some people. It's not for everybody, but I agree. Like documenting everything, like it made us a better organization because you could stop cheating by being
Yes.
in proximity and connecting. It takes a lot. We kind of did it intentionally. Like we wanted to make sure that there was no. It's really easy to silo when you're on your own. It's really easy for people to struggle or be stressed or overwork or overextend because you can't see it.
Yes.
So we had to implement, I can't remember where I read it. It was the guys behind Basecamp. They have a remote workbook that I cannot remember the title of right now, but it was like intentional socializing in the sense of like regular touch bases so that everyone feels like part of a larger fabric, even though, you're just in your office at home.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was that I found the same thing. That part's important.
Yeah, it really is. I agree. And also making sure that like hiring is a little bit more difficult. I think hiring in person was a little bit easier.
Yeah, it's a little bit harder to get a read on people remote. I do this thing now. I started it back then. I call it a vibe check. So it's just a 5 minute call because I don't want to be stuck in a half an hour interview if already not vibing with this person. So I'll just do a little 5 minute vibe check. It's just a quick call and then they'll graduate to a larger interview. And then I started doing, I don't know if you do this, but I do team interviews as well. So I'm not the only one that interviews candidates. So they get to meet their potential team. The team gets to meet them. I prepare everybody with questions so that we can actually have a bit of a discussion, but you have to do like more touch points because you
Yes.
can't get that physical read on somebody in space.
100%. I feel like the interview process is much longer, which is kind of great. You get like a really good feel of the person. It's just
Hmm.
we can have an entire chat about hiring. So important to hire correctly
It's the
and
toughest part of the job.
take your time doing it. You could work with that person for 10 years, so take your time. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a pretty senior team. I think we've got some juniors. Always got juniors coming in and out on the sort of the senior level team. Like I think the shortest somebody's been with us is 5-6 years. So there's just like you've experienced, you've got people been with you forever. Like there's
Yeah.
just it's like a lot of unspoken understandings of like how we like to work and what we need and what works and what doesn't work. So it makes the
Yes.
work better and more fun to do. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. I think like in the early days, I was comfortable with turnover and churn, and I got way less so with it now. I think over the years, I think a lot of agencies or a lot of people underestimate the cost to the organization to like train and nurture and grow somebody, and for me, every time I have to start that process all over again, I'm like, I just have to work harder to keep people longer. Like this is just not a good use of everybody's time. Is quite disruptive. So yeah, so it's something we're very conscious of over here, anyways.
Yeah, it is a big deal. It can absolutely drop your productivity. It can drop your esteem in what you're doing. There's nothing that's like I don't know if pet peeve is even a big enough word. That's a real like irk of mine. We really invest in the training phase and really
Yes,
onboard someone
you
well
can't
so that
train too much.
yes, 100%. Be with them, like interview long, be with them a lot in the beginning because then I want you to fly solo. I
Yeah,
want you to be the expert at what you do. I want you to sit in your lane. I want you to absolutely crush it.
yeah.
And so to invest so much in someone and then realize it's a flop is just it's a big pill to swallow.
Yeah.
So,
We
yeah.
have a bit of a different development process over here. We use a low code system that we built ourselves called Refoundry. And so it's a different way of building. So when we have junior builders join the team, we do what we call buddy builds. So they get a half structured, partly set up site, and we to finish. So they actually just take it the rest of the way. And then we slowly pull it back till they do more and more of the process until they're doing their own solo builds. And whenever they do their first solo build, it's been a little while since we've had a junior start on the team, but when they have their first solo build, there's like a big moment where we all celebrate with them. So,
I
yeah.
love that.
Yeah. And then they always have a co-pilot. So there's always somebody that's giving them the lead build, our QA manager, our tech director, the engineers. Like there's always an army of people that's like giving them any answer they want, because I agree, like somebody languishing in solitude is like they're not productive. It's extremely stressful. Like they're not going to
Oh,
stay. Like that's not a fun. You wouldn't want to work that way. It's awful.
yeah, horrendous. Yeah, that's very cool. I really and I love, celebrating the accomplishment at the end. That's great camaraderie.
Yeah. Yeah. We found we do this every Monday. We've been doing it for years. We do shout outs. So everyone has to give anyone who's done something great that they noticed that helped them. We give them a shout out, and everyone takes a turn every Monday just doing sort of a communal high five. That's been an important part of maintaining that sort of celebratory belonging culture.
I love that.
So you mentioned staying humble to creativity as a core value. Like what does it actually look like when someone on the team loses that, and how do you address it?
Wow, that is a really great question. So we have a small team of super creatives, and I can't say that is an issue that we come up against often. However, I will say that sometimes we have to keep each other sharp.
Hmm.
I will give Grant a shout out to this. He is the type of mind that will think very deeply about something and come up with the most what's the right way to say that? Because there's never like the right way. There's always lots of solutions, but he'll come up with he won't accept the status quo just because
Yeah.
it's been done one way. He'll really think through, like, yeah, but should it be done that way? And so if someone on our team suggests something that's like quick and easy, like this will fit the mold, this is quick and easy, we have a really cool culture of checking each other and going, I'm not sure that's the best we could totally do. Let's rethink it this way, or let's even present two options. Because sometimes, the client is pushing for the quicker, easier thing because that's all they know of. And so I think just keeping an open culture where we consider our team like a circle and not a hierarchy. So we all work together, and the more empowered we all feel just
Hmm.
personally and at work,
Yeah.
the better we're all going to function. And so at any level, we always encourage pushback, probably isn't quite the right word, but like open communication and just valuing everyone's opinions and thoughts and their own expertise.
Yeah. Yeah. We talk a lot about, or I talk a lot about agency. So having people feel like they have some age or a lot of agency over how they do the work.
Yes,
So what I like to do, or what we try to do over here, is we try to define what good looks like and what the outputs, what outputs required, and to some degree how much time you have to do the task.
100%.
But how you get from point A to point B is up to you. When we have
Yes.
new people join the team, we're like, all ideas are welcome once you've mastered our process. But after that, like once you understand all the reasons for why we do stuff, which there's always a good reason for why we do things a certain way, like you can solve a problem in any way that makes sense to you, provided everybody is kept in the loop and you're doing it together. So that agency, particularly with younger generations, you millennials and then the Gen Zs coming in, like you not only want your work to mean something and understand how you contribute to the larger picture of the work, but you want to be able to choose how you do it in a way that
That's
makes
good.
sense to you, right? That agency is really, really important. And a lot of these sort of like corporate structures that we inherit and that a lot of particularly male-led organizations tend to implement without really considering it is very top down. It's just so a lot about control and micromanagement. It doesn't allow people to have agency. So I agree that providing that level of agency and collaboration creates a culture of belonging. That's when creative work really becomes special rather than just executional.
That's so true. We also, outside of like our own team ecosystem, we implement something called the Jolly system.
Okay.
It's probably a bit cheesy, but
I like
the
cheesy.
the idea is we took a trip to Disneyland a long time ago, and when I went there, I wherever you go, any person who works at Disneyland is able to give you what you want without having to go to someone else to get it.
Yes.
So if you're like, I need or if you're like need a little special favor, or how can I do this, or if someone wants to line hop you, they can do it. Any person at any level, and it costs them nothing. And it makes that experience so magical and wow.
Mm,
And so we were like, how can we do the Disneyland experience for our clients? Like I mentioned, we're a boutique. We've got 10 people on our team. Every single person has touch points with clients. And so we were like, let's give everyone the agency that they don't have to check with a higher up. They own their own lane. If you can do that small thing for the client that makes them feel wow, do it.
mhm.
You have the agency to do that. Disneyland has their Disneyland theme. We can have our
Yeah.
Jolly theme. You do it. You make their day great. So, and then of course, there's always those limits of like, look, you can't blow the whole scope of the project open just to make them happy. But if
Yeah.
if they need a little tweak on a revision that's slightly out of scope, and that's just going to make their day and make them go, wow, I was really heard. Do it. If
Yeah.
you need extra meeting that's out of scope that they're just going to go, wow, Jolly totally got me. Do it. Don't
Yeah.
ask, do it. You be the expert. And that's also been like, I
Yeah.
think a really cool thing that's made every person feel like they have ownership.
Yeah.
And it's just great for the clients too, to feel like no matter who they're talking to, they know that person has power. Not like, let me get past you to the person who can green light this for me.
Yeah.
So it's just a
Yeah.
win-win.
We bake yes into the process. So there's lots of opportunity for us to say, yeah, no problem. Because you're right. That's our version of it. We phrase it as sort of like being helpful. How can we be of service? How can we help you get to the finish line in the easiest way possible? So there's like easy yeses, like a client always gets easy yeses. Like medium yeses, we may have to sort of talk about it. Harder yeses are always yes, but this or that, or
Yes,
it's
that
not
just costs
free,
more
or
money.
it's yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'll do anything for a little extra time and money. Absolutely. So
Absolutely. Yeah, that
I will
just
absolutely rebuild that page. It's going to cost this much, and we have to push your launch date out that far, that much farther, or we can do it after, whatever you
yes.
want.
Yes, yes, yes.
So yeah, I mean, like you got like you're in the tech business. You sort of self taught your way through, but like, every few years, like when I learned CSS, because it just blew up. I don't know if you remember the CSS Zen Garden from way back when, but like I heard very heated argument in the agency I was working at the time. We had one advocate that was just like CSS is the future, and then this other curmudgeon-y older guy that was like inline styles are not going anywhere. CSS is a pile of crap. So it was pretty funny. But that's when I taught myself how to code, because I was like, what is this CSS stuff? So, every few years something comes along, people say will reshape everything. What's your read on AI right now? Like, how does it fit that pattern? Like, how are you accommodating for it or accounting for it?
Oh, yeah, that is such a great question and something that is coming up so much in day-to-day work, client calls, strategy. I have a little bit of mixed feelings at this exact moment in time. Do I think it will completely rechange our whole industry and probably a lot of how the world functions as a whole? Yes, 1000%. Absolutely. We're exploring how to use that. I think at this level, it's, as you said, like if you can get your systems and apps, and gosh, how do I even talk about this? AI is such a big term let me just back up.
Yeah.
AI is such a big term that people think it's a robot who lives in your house. And then there's also like AI is like doing autocorrect in your texting.
That's
So
right.
there's such a like
It's
scale
been
and
around
level.
20 years. People don't realize that. Yeah.
Yes, 100%. And so I sometimes get a little frustrated about like kind of some of the really big conversations around it. And I'm like, well, when they say how are you using it, I'm like, everyone's using it every day, whether you really realize it or not. So we certainly have systems that are getting a much easier with what we do. If you work in a digital world, your life is getting easier. Our lives are getting easier. But does that mean that the work is 100 times faster? The ideas come 100? No, it doesn't. It's not replacing creativity. And the level in which AI can produce for our industry is nowhere near what it needs to be able to like truly be outsourcing roles to AI. Not even close. I do
Yeah.
think there's like a misconception from a consumer standpoint. Like, can't AI just do, I'm getting clients now that are like, and then what we'll do is we'll just make a video. You'll just have AI do that. That'll produce that in 5 minutes. And then and I'm like, my dear, if that could be done in 5 minutes, you would be doing it yourself and we wouldn't be having this conversation. It
We have
really
a
reminds me of,
situation. Yeah, we have a situation right now where a client's actually giving us feedback via chat GPT generated prototypes. That's her feedback. And we're like, did you look at this? Did you just think that the robots made good decisions for you? Like,
yes, there's like I'm having my meetings typically, I'm sure similar to you, are with ownership, C-suite. And people are chatting about, oh, I had this adorable conversation. This person has a very successful international manufacturing company. And he goes, Sarah, here's what I want you to do. I want you to set up the AI on my website and I want you to program it for what it needs to do. And then I just want you to let it run everything. And I'm like, what does that even mean?
what does
What
that
are
look
you
like in your head? That's
talking?
what I want to
Yeah.
know. Yeah. What does that look
Yeah.
like?
I said, okay,
Walk
let me explain.
walk me through that
It's
experience.
Yes, like, I just want you to program, like, so I'm like, "Okay, it's not a do-all robot that people are just going and buying the robot, and the robot now works in your house." It's not
Yeah.
that, but you have every system that we're working with on a day-to-day basis has already integrated AI into it, so there's, like,
Yeah.
all these micro touch points, but that being said, now I'm gonna put on my, like, learning hat because it is so cool to be at the infancy of something. You and I were at the infancy of, like you said, CSS coming on the picture, the infancy of WordPress coming into the
Yep.
scene. And because we
Hmm.
learned it from the beginning, we became the experts at that. It is very cool right now that we are on the cusp of something so new. It is so spread out, though. This term is so spread out. It's
Yeah.
almost difficult to be like,
And
have you
90% of it is crap. Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. Like, I don't want to sound like someone that's like, don't go into the future, kids, but it is garbage. It's not
Not all of it
usable
is.
yet.
Yeah.
And so I think of it kind of like a luxury brand, like Tesla first came out and their business model was probably like not the right brand to talk about right
Yeah.
now. Their whole like sales model was we're going to release these high-end cars, high-tech cars, and they're not going to be accessible for everybody.
Uh-huh.
Our touch point is very high and our price point's very high. And then over time, we're going to bring that down into the consumer day-to-day market. And I think that that's where AI is at right now. We all have a little touch point on it, but unless you're one of these huge tech companies that can actually invest in
Yeah.
it,
You're not really.
correct, where you're building a model for your agency or for your business that will truly start running some of these
Yeah.
things, because
Yeah.
it is a learning model, is very, very cool. It
Well,
hasn't hit us at a level that's super usable
yeah.
in that kind of capacity. That being said, all the micro touch points are extremely helpful. What are you doing with it? What I'm always curious with this too. It's
So, I mean, individually, we all use it for like certain types of data analysis, like our SEO reporting. We've
yeah.
been using AI for a bit because it actually has really good insights. It can crunch the data much faster and more quickly than we can. We use it for like content calendar planning, like not topic generation, but just like helping to structure out all the pieces. I use it a lot for like, because I'm autistic, times really struggle with some of the subtext. And so I'll actually use it a lot of times to help me spend way less time stressing out about how to reply to clients in certain situations. So I use it for a lot of that sort of stuff.
Sean, no
It
wonder we
really,
get along. I'm also neurodivergent.
oh, there you go.
We really are flames. I love this.
Unicorn.
Yes.
I use it a lot for, I mean, who's not using it to transcribe every single meetings? Like clients said this, no, you did it, got the receipt, re-recorded it. So that's been huge. What the biggest thing that we're using for right now, so we use it on the dev side just to help with some automated testing. It's allowed sort of our technical director. He took a couple of courses in Claude Code so that he can actually like work with the engineers by providing like prototypes and stuff like that so that they can implement. So that's been really handy. And right now we're experimenting with ways. So what I'm talking about, the branded lorem ipsum. So using AI and this prototype generation tool that we've developed that can export directly into our build product just to automate the actually assembly process of what we're doing. We also built a
That's
little
quite
connector
clever, by the way. Is that in your
between
foundry?
Figma and the tool as well. So if you just give it a Figma file, it'll extract the color palettes and everything and do all sort of the style setup for us. So just, I see it, and that's what I sort of tell everybody. Do not let it think for you. It's really advanced automation. So find all the ways for it to do this stuff that you've got better things to do with
Yes.
so that you have more time to do the thinking. That's what we're getting paid for.
100%. The creativity will always sit with you. The
That's right.
ingenuity will always
Yeah.
sit with you. I love the ways you're using it. That is very, very cool. We
Yeah.
say be careful because AI is a yes man. So whatever you
I
tell it,
say that
it's
all the time. It's a sycophant. It's going to tell you what you want to hear,
yeah, great
even if it
idea,
has to
Sean. I
lie.
love that,
Yeah.
Sean. That'll totally be successful. You
I
should
mean,
run
it's
with
great for your ego.
yeah. And then you go, well, I don't know. I'm actually thinking that maybe this might be better. You're right. That will be
You're
better,
right.
Sean.
Yeah.
Totally agree with you.
Here's why.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're having, I guess if you're having imposter syndrome, get on AI and be like, here's my thoughts. It'll be like, you're
It's
the best I've
fantastic.
ever heard.
All right. Last question for the show. We're going to do a little bit of retrospective. What is the hardest lesson you've learned about running a creative agency that nobody warned you about?
Oof, one, let's see. Well, you and I touched base on the fact that you and I both have this can do, why not me
Yep.
attitude, which has, I would say, which has gotten me in and has gotten us in. And did we know what we were entering when we started on that
Mm-hmm.
journey? No,
Yep.
we didn't. So I would say that at one point we did get a mentor. And that was such a huge turning point for our agency. We went 2 to 3x our income after that. It was such a jump. It wasn't even funny. And I thought, boy, if I could have gone back, I would have put everything into investing in that in the beginning because this is just an industry of a lot of smoke and mirrors a little bit. Like you need to know what you know very well. However, the way you present that knowledge, the way you're packaging that knowledge, the way you're executing that can make the difference between you making a little money at this and making a lot of money at this. And so that was a huge game changer in
Yeah.
in what we did. And if I could have gone back, I would have done that sooner.
Yeah.
But I would also say the other thing, if I could go back, would 100% be I've told myself so many times in this, you got here through luck. You landed a great client. In the very beginning, we landed one of the patriarch studios in Hollywood. And we got to do at the De Laurentiis company, and we got to do their whole suite of needs. And it kind of put us really early on the map. And we certainly had to grow a long ways to get to where we're at now. But
Yeah.
that got us in the door. And we always said, oh, we're so lucky. And then whenever we hit the next milestone, we went, oh, wow, we're so lucky. I don't know how we got this. We're so lucky.
Uh-huh.
And now today, I understand that we think different. And I think you do too, Sean. We think different than other people. We're not
Yeah.
okay with okay. Have to think something through until it's right. We won't release something until it's truly good. And I found that that's different than a lot of people, not just in our industry, but in this world, who are
Yeah.
okay with going along with the status quo. And so I don't think we did necessarily luck into all of those things. I think that this whole time and I say this very humbly, I don't mean this like with a big ego or anything,
Uh-huh.
but I just mean in terms of learning your own value and confidence, I think we've been better than we thought we've been this whole time. And that was something that it took me later in growth and maturity to own.
Yeah.
And instead of being like, I'm just so grateful to be here. I don't know how we got here. No,
Yeah. Own it. Yeah.
we've earned where we're at because and we know and that's an okay thing. And that's I think tricky in general for people to say about themselves, but I think very difficult for women to say about themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I
Yeah.
think if I could go back and tell younger Sarah, I would just whisper in her ear and go, own it. You're here for a reason. You got hired for a reason.
Yep.
And sometimes that reason is just your mere essence when you show up very present and very willing to do the task and be energetic and go, I'm going to figure out the answer.
Yeah.
Not everyone has that capacity. So
Yeah.
yeah, that confidence grows along the way, but man, would we be in a different place had I known that sooner.
Yeah. The last couple of years it's the same thing. Just giving yourself permission to just own the fact that you have gotten here because you are good at what you do, and that's comes from a lot of hard work and stick-to-itiveness.
We always say this is a humbling industry. You can be riding super high and then just hit the lowest low or a really
Yeah.
difficult project or difficult, something comes along that feels like it's a bump on the road and
Yeah.
that can just knock you off your heels. So we always say like, wear your crown humbly.
Yeah.
There's this like
Exactly.
fine balance, right?
Yeah. I always like this the image I've always had of like a master crafts person, right? Like you know what you can do and it's just about executing the work. What people think about it is up to them. So there's sort of like a quiet power, if you will, in that.
Love that.
All right. Well, that's a wrap on this episode of Beyond the Build. Thanks to Sarah Jolly from Jolly Creative for one of the most honest conversations I've had about how you actually build something, not from a blueprint, but from curiosity, partnership, and 13 years of staying humble enough to keep learning. So, Sarah, thank you very much for joining today.
Thank you very much, Shawn. This was a really special conversation.
All right. So, everybody, thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next one. Stop.